What's up, Facebook? Ty Crandall here with Credit Suite, and today we're diving into how to get a business loan. We're actually going to decode 10 different ways you can get a business loan, even if you have bad credit, even if you cannot qualify at your bank. We're going to look at a ton of different options. Now, this is one of 2 live streams that we're going to do on this topic. And if you happen to have joined us on Periscope yesterday, we're going to talk about 10 different ways that we talked about Periscope yesterday to be able to get a business loan. Even if you have bad credit, even if you think there's no possible way you're going to qualify at your bank, we're going to talk about all 10 of those today. And again, this is only the first. Michael, welcome to the stream. I appreciate you coming in. Good morning, Christine. Welcome. So Christine was with us yesterday. We're going to be talking about 10 more than we talked about on Periscope yesterday. And we're going to be decoding all 10 to map out exactly how you can get a loan with bad credit. We're also going to be talking about how you can get a loan when you just don't have what you need to qualify for your bank. Now, again, or qualify with your bank. Now, again, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing 2 streams on this. I actually have 20 different business loans you can get with bad credit, 20 different business loans you can get even when you can't qualify at your own bank. And we're going to be talking about all of those. So, Bizarre, welcome. Thanks for coming in. Bizarre Cash, I like that. I like your last name. That's my son's name. So, we're going to be talking about 20 in total. In the weeks to come, I'm going to do another session on another 10. And today, we're going to be talking from a countdown from 10 to 1 about 10, and then in a few weeks we'll be talking about another 10. So you need to update RTS fleet card for me. It really went up. That's awesome. Or how much is that? Christine, let me know. Actually, you know what? Email me that and the approval you mentioned yesterday, and I'll make sure I get those added to the boards. That's awesome. And thank you all very much in advance for sharing this. And so lets me know I'm on the right track. So let's go to the whiteboard, new Facebook here. Let me figure this out. Okay, so 10 ways to get a business loan when you can't get approved at a bank. 10 ways to get a business loan even if you have bad credit. So the first thing to remember is do not try to go to your conventional bank to get approved. Look, to get a business loan, you typically need one of 3 things. You either need good credit or a guarantor that has good credit. You need some kind of cash flow, or you need to have some kind of collateral. If you go to a big bank, they need all 3. And so you're probably not going to get approved because, again, the problem there is most people don't have collateral for 50 to 70% of what they're borrowing, have cash flow that's increasing every year with a bunch of net profits on the tax returns, and have really good personal, business, and bank credit. And if you don't have those things, then you're probably not going to get approved for financing at your bank. So where do you go? Well, the good news is per the Department of Revenue, about 95% plus of business loans now come from these guys. Alternative lenders, alternative investors, they're not coming from the big banks. So that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about alternative lending program. Alternative other than conventional banks, other than SBA, i.e. much easier to qualify for than big bank loans. So let's dive in. So I'm running out of Sharpies here because I keep moving them to other boards, I think. Okay, so number 10 is called cash flow financing. And with this kind of financing, you've got to be in business 1 year and have $10,000 in monthly revenue, but it's one of the fastest and easiest ways to actually qualify for a business loan. What this is you're ultimately selling future revenue in exchange for money now. That's how revenue lending works. It's not even really a loan. It's almost like an advance because what they're doing is they're looking at your bank statements. They'll need 6 months of bank statements, preferably 6 months of merchant statements, and they're looking to make sure that you basically manage your bank account responsibly. They want to see that you don't have a bunch of non-sufficient funds. They want to see that you have a positive ending bank balance at the end of each month. They want to see you have consistent deposits going into the bank account. And if you do, then they see that you manage the bank account responsibly. Betty, thank you. I appreciate you coming in. They make sure that you manage the bank account responsibly. And if you do, they'll typically lend you money based on the management of the bank account. They'll typically get you 12% of whatever your annual revenue is. So whatever your bank account reflects your revenue is, you can get approved for about 12% of that amount. So if you do $250,000 or $200,000 a year in annual revenue, that's about $24,000 they'll lend to you. Now here's what I like and what you'll like about this program. This is the fastest and easiest way to get a business loan Pretty much, period. There's one that I found that's a little faster that we'll get to down the list, but you can get funding in 72 hours max if you get your documents in as they need them. We've seen fundings in as short as 24 hours, and all they do is look at your bank account. They don't need collateral, and a lot of sources don't even look at credit. So even if your credit is horrible, it won't matter. You can still typically get approved for revenue lending. All you need is proper bank account management without a bunch of overdraws each month. And again, $10,000 in revenue, 1 year in business, you can get approved. Now keep in mind, if you've only been in business 6 months or you only have $5,000 in revenue, there still is a shot for you with some compensating factors. You still might be able to get approved. But the majority of lenders, 90% plus, fall into the 1 year in business and $10,000 a month in revenue. If you have that, then you have a good chance of getting approved. Shared in here. Thanks, man. Appreciate you sharing, Kevin. And what if you don't have $10,000 a month? Well, you got a couple options. First of all, we're going to talk about a bunch more options that might work better for you. This one's based on you having the revenue. So if you don't have the revenue lending might not be right for you. But you still might be able to get approved if you have compensating factors. Let's say, for example, that you've only been in business, you don't have the $10,000 a month. But let's say your bank account's managed really responsibly, you have really good credit, and you've been in business for 2 years. Well, that's enough compensating factors to probably get you past not having the revenue for 10 grand. But if you don't have the compensating factors, then revenue lending might not work for you. One of these other options may. So let's take a look. So number 10, cash flow financing. You got to be in business 1 year, 10 grand or more. It's based on your revenue. Number 9 is not cash flow financing credit lines. Now, with this program, you can actually get a credit line instead of an actual loan or advance, okay? So with cash flow financing, what happens is some sources are coming in now and giving you a second behind the first. So let's say you go get a revenue lending loan for 30 grand, and then another source sees you got that, they might come and offer you another 20 grand as a second behind the first loan. Well, lenders are seeing that they're doing this, and to compensate, now they'll give you a credit line and an advance. So they might give you that $30,000 advance, and then they also give you a $20,000 credit line. This is one of the only credit lines you're going to find out there where you don't have to have really good credit to get it. All you need is the consistent revenue. If you have the consistent revenue, you could typically get the revenue lending loan, and then you also have a really good chance of getting the revenue lending credit line if you have really good bank account management. Now, what happens if your average is over $10,000 a month but have no credit? Well, David, it depends on what you mean you have no credit. You don't need to have good credit with this program. All you need is $10,000 a month going through your actual bank account. And they prefer that the amount in your bank account is increased, or deposits is increasing every month, not decreasing. David, thank you for sharing. Daniel, thank you for sharing. So your credit doesn't really matter with this. We even work with a lot of lenders that don't even look at your personal credit. They don't even pull your personal credit. And the others that do care, they're usually at a 500 or a 520 credit score. So you can still get approved for the revenue financing and the cash and the credit line, even if you don't have really good credit. Now, that brings me to number 8, merchant cash advances. Now, somebody else said, what happens if you don't have $10,000 in revenue? Well, you might want to consider one of these guys. Because with these guys, you only need 6 months of business and $5,000 in monthly revenue, and it's just as fast and easy as the revenue financing. So with merchant cash advances, it works very similar to revenue lending. But the difference is they're looking at credit card deposits. They're not looking at total revenue through the bank account. So with revenue lending, they'll look at checks. They'll look at cash deposits as well. With merchant cash advances, they only look at credit card deposits. But if you have credit card deposits of 5 grand a month and you've been in business 6 months or more, then a merchant cash advance might work better for you than revenue lending if you don't yet have the 1 year in business and $10,000 a month that revenue lending requires. Okay, so that being said, there's a lot of different options here. Revenue lending, if you have the $10,000 a month and the 1 year in business, you also have the merchant cash advances if you only have 6 months in business or $5,000 in revenue. And if you manage your bank account really responsibly, when you go to some revenue lending lenders, they might even get you one of those credit lines as well. So that brings us to what if you don't have these? What if you don't have a lot of consistent revenue? Well, then that brings me to number 7, which are called equity investors. And with equity investors, this is kind of like what you see on Shark Tank. You're sacrificing equity in your company for a loan if you have a great idea or a concept. So this is a option for those people that just don't have maybe consistent revenue yet. Maybe you have a really good idea. Maybe you have a really good concept. Maybe you've got a proven business model, but you don't have a bunch of revenue going through it yet. With those cases, equity investors might be the ticket. Now, equity investors, by definition, typically want a piece of equity in your business in exchange for the money. Okay, now and Bazaar says, what about if you only deposit cash? That's fine with revenue lending, but it wouldn't work with a merchant cash advance. A merchant cash advance only looks at credit card deposits, mostly Visa, MasterCard. But revenue lending, you'd be fine. The revenue lending credit line, you'd be fine. But you couldn't do that merchant cash advance because they only look at credit card deposits. So when we talk about private equity, you're talking about basically giving exchange an equity of ownership in your business in exchange for money. We see this on Shark Tank all the time. But as you see on Shark Tank, what they typically want to see is a really good concept or idea, a product that's patented that really solves a big problem if you don't have a proven model, or if you do have a proven model, meaning you're making sales, then that's another way to get equity investors involved. So you don't have to have a ton of revenue. Credit doesn't matter. Collateral doesn't matter. All you need is a really good concept or a really good idea, or a business that's kind of already underway that you've proven you know how to manage and you've proven can grow and make money. If you have that, then an equity investor might be the better way to go for you than some of these other programs. So that brings me to number 6, and this is really one of getting close to one of my favorites, which is number 5 right here. Account receivable financing. So AR financing is where you use your account receivables with others to qualify for a loan. Now, what's nice about this is rates are below 2%. It's not based on personal credit quality, and it's not based on revenue either. What you need to get approved is account receivables. And account receivables basically means somebody owes you money. So let's say you're in the commercial lawn care business and you mow people's lawns, but you don't get paid for 2 months or 3 months after you actually do the work. That's an account receivable. So if you work with companies, not individuals, but you work with businesses or you work with the government that actually doesn't pay you right away when the work is done, then you have AR. You have account receivables. AR financing is where you could borrow against those receivables and get interest of like 2% or less. So how it works is you typically get about 80% of the receivable advanced to you within 24 hours. The rest gets paid to you minus their discount, minus the lender's fee, once the actual invoice is paid. And the lender collects on the invoice for you. So let's go back to our commercial lawn care business as an example. So commercial lawn care business, right? You have a commercial lawn care business, you have $100,000 in receivables for the month. Well, with this program, you get $80,000 right away the minute that receivable comes in. The next day, you get paid 80% of that. Then the lender collects on the invoice from the people you mow lawns for, and then they give you the 20% minus their fee once the invoice is actually paid. So what this allows you to do is instead of waiting for the full invoice to get paid, you get 80% of the money, sometimes weeks or months before the invoice gets paid. You no longer have to collect on the debt, and then you still get the other 20% back minus the lender's fee once the invoice is paid. And let's be honest, 2% discount fee, that's less than you'd pay accepting credit cards from the person. So this gives you a great way, if you can't accept credit cards, if people do delay payment, to still get your money without having to wait weeks or months to get approved. And that brings me to one of my favorite new programs that just rolled out. And this is called AR credit lines. Now, along the way, if any of this makes sense and you want to talk more, just give us a ring, 877-600-2487. You can also go through a really quick 2-minute, or actually probably 1 minute pre-approval at creditsuite.com/get funding. So this is one of my favorite new programs that just rolled out because it's one of the easiest programs I've ever seen for people to qualify for. The approvals are really fast as well. So there's 2 different programs. You don't necessarily need receivables here. I'll tell you how it works in a second. But one of the programs you do have receivables. It doesn't even have to be from the government or business. It can be from individuals. You're basically getting a credit line within 24 hours. There's no personal credit check, no business credit check, or bank rating needed either. All you need is a review of your bank account or accounting software, and then you're basically going to get a loan. That's a credit line. You use what you use, and you got 12 to 24 weeks to pay back whatever you borrow. And the rates are crazy. Look at this. Now, this is actually, I misprinted this. It's 0.5 to 0.7, not 0.05. But it's 0.5% to nearly less than 0.75% is the actual interest. So, by far one of my new faves. I mean, we are taking all kinds of people that could not qualify for loans and putting them in this program and getting them instant approvals, and I'll tell you how it works. What they're doing is they're using computer technology. They plug into your bank account or your actual accounting software, like QuickBooks. They see that you have consistent money coming in or you have account receivables coming in, and you get a near instant approval and fund within 24 hours to get a real credit line. I mean, you only pay on what you borrow, okay? And as you pay it down, you have access again to use that money, a real credit line. The only difference between the normal credit line is instead of a minimum payment, they actually take whatever you borrow and they map it out over 12 to 24 weeks to get paid back. So to give you an example of how low the interest rate is on this, if you have $1,000, then it's like $5 per week that you have the money outstanding. It's super cheap. 0.5% to 0.7% per the week that it's outstanding. And again, it's 12 to 24 weeks is the payback term they'll give you for whatever you borrow. So let's say you have a $30,000 credit line that's issued, boom, right away, and you only use 5 of it. Well, then they give you 12 to 24 weeks to pay back the 5. Let's say a month later you use another 10. Well, they give you another 12 to 24 weeks to pay back the 10. As you pay back the 5, you can reuse the 5, etc., etc. It's a working capital credit line with no credit check and no collateral needed either. All you need is account receivables or that they can see that you're managing the bank account responsibly. And if you do so, you can get approved upwards to $100,000. Now, from what I've seen, if you start getting above 35 grand, they might want to see your tax returns as well. Below that, they typically are approving you automatically, automated approval without even needing tax returns, just because of their computer review of either your accounting software or your bank accounts. This is a slick program because a lot of people can get approved because there is no credit check and there is no collateral needed. All they want to do is to see you've got money flowing in and that your cash flow positive, that you don't have more going out than you have coming in. If you do, you don't have to go through the bank statement review and merchant account statement review you do with revenue lending, and you can get approved pretty quick, usually instant approval and funding within 24 hours. So again, if that makes sense, 2 things you could do. 1, give us a call, 877-600-2487. We'll send you a link. You can get approved right away. The other is creditsuite.com/get funding. Remember, if we ever help you get loans, we don't charge you any money. Not when you apply, not when you fund. Some of these sources will pay us when we refer business over, some don't. But the bottom line is it's actually cheaper and easier to work with us and do it on your own because we do all the middle work for you. Use our volume of loans we get done to get you better terms. So it works pretty cool. So love this program. Super easy to qualify if you've got consistent money going through the bank account. Now they do want you to have $100,000 a year in revenue or more to typically get approved. So you need to be doing about, nearly about $9 grand a month or so in revenue to get approved. You need to have $100,000 in revenue or more to get approved. If you do have that, it's one of the easiest programs to get approved for. So number 4, purchase order financing. So with this, you're basically, let's say you have an order you need to fulfill, but you got to get stuff from your supplier. Well, with this option, you can get 95% of the money that you need lent to you to be able to fulfill your actual purchase orders. Let's say you're a business, a buddy of mine owns a plastic manufacturer company, and Busch Gardens is one of his customers, right? So let's say he gets an order from Busch Gardens, but he doesn't want to take all of his cash and use it to buy the plastic that he needs to manufacture the goods. He can get purchase order financing, get the plastic from the supplier, the lender pays it and issues them a letter of credit. He gets the plastic, fulfills the order, and pays the loan back. So purchase order financing, great way to go if you have outstanding purchase orders, no consumer credit requirements, no other collateral outside of the POs needed, and no revenue requirements either. Okay, so securities-based line of credit, another line of credit you can get regardless of how bad your personal credit is. You can get 90% financing borrowing against stocks or bonds that you own or maybe somebody else owns that maybe wants to be a guarantor. Rates are less than 5% and there's no credit check and there's no cash flow required at all. So, let's say you have stocks worth 100 grand. You can borrow 90% financing and get 90 grand against that. You still keep the stocks in play. You still earn interest on the stocks that you have. You just use those as leverage. So if you default, they take the stocks. If you don't, you continue to earn the interest and you get an actual working capital credit line you can use. Here's another idea. Let's say you don't have stocks, but let's say Grandpa does. Grandpa loves your business concept. He says, I want to be part of the business. And you say, look, I got a great way you could use your stocks as leverage for me to actually borrow against to get the money I need. And that way it doesn't affect your credit. It doesn't affect your liquid cash. You could still earn interest on the stocks. It only affects you adversely if I default. And let's work out something where you know that I'll make the payments or I could even pay it through you so you'll know I don't default. So the reason I bring this up is even if you don't have stocks or bonds, I've given you something else to look for. Because now you can look for potential investors that do have stocks or bonds. They don't have to go through as much with taking money out of their pocket to fund you. It's just a matter of they're letting you use the stocks or bonds as collateral. So something else to look for to get financing, even if you don't have stocks or bonds now on your own. Okay, so another thing to do is a 401k financing. Very similar, but you can get 100% financing against 401k versus securities with 90%. Now this is a line of credit or a loan under 5%. And again, there's no credit check, there's no personal guarantees. I have some questions. Let me make sure I get those. Tish, yeah, I love that program. It's awesome. Is there an employment timeline? No, there's not on any of those ones I mentioned. Can you use in real estate? Yes, you can use this financing for any purpose. It's working capital, which means you can use it for any reason you want to use it. Ty, what would be the best program for real estate investment? That's a trick question. There's a lot of them out there. My personal favorite is unsecured financing because you can get up to 150 grand at 0% rates if you have good credit or a guarantor that does. 150 grand at 0% gets you the money you need and credit lines to buy the physical property with cash. Okay, so you can go in and have more negotiating power. And then once you flip a few, Michael, I would then convert to house reseller program where you can then use the program just to flip real estate. But if you're new to it, then you're going to need to get some under your belt before you can get house reseller. So for real estate, I like securities-based line of credit. I like that AR credit line that I told you about. I also really like the unsecured program. I love business credit. I love the house reseller program. The 401k and the stock programs we talked about. Any of those will work really well for real estate investors. Okay, so that being said, 401k financing, very similar to securities-based financing. The only difference is we're talking about a 401k, not stocks and bonds. The other difference is that you can get 100% against the 401k versus 90% for securities-based financing. Same concept. If you don't have a 401k, you might have someone around you that does, that wants to invest in your business. You can use their 401k as collateral to be able to fund your business. Does this make sense? Depends on you. A 401k by definition is you're just investing in other people's businesses. If you believe in your ability to grow your business, then you have to decide, do you think you have the best chance of growing your business and making more revenue or investing in other people and letting them do it? Really, that's the difference. But 401k financing works really well. We had one bar owner that couldn't get 25 grand at his own bank, but yet he got a $700,000 loan using 401k financing. So it's a really good way to go, especially when you can't qualify for a conventional loan. Can you cash advance all the cash on business credit cards to place cash offer in real estate? Some cards only allow 25%. It depends on the card. As you mentioned, it depends on the card. So we have an unsecured program where you can get up to $150,000 in unsecured financing. You'll usually get 5 to 8 times the amount of your highest credit limit account. With this program, the funding source helps you take out the physical cash at almost 100%, 97 to 100% of the credit line you could take out in cash. Here's the kicker, which is crazy, is that you get 0% rates on this for 6 to 18 months. So you get the 0% rates that you actually get on credit cards, and you get the cash out capability you get on credit lines. So you could actually get up to 150 grand and cash out at 0% for 6 to 18 months without paying those cash advance fees. So is it possible? Yes. My personal advice, I don't go for those credit cards directly myself. I have a company, the same one that we use for our clients, that I actually use in those cases. I'd rather go through a company that specializes in getting the credit cards because they get me the cards with the best kind of bonus points, etc., the best longest term rates. They get me the most amount of money, and they get me cash out capability. So yes, those cards exist. Are they hard to find on your own? Yeah. Don't recommend you do. Even when I get those kind of cards, which I do, I still use the same service we recommend for our clients to get the most amount of money at the best terms. That's my advice. But yes, it absolutely can be done. How does the fee work? On the unsecured program, they typically charge about 9.99%, and they roll it right into the card you get. So if you get a $10,000 card, they charge you $990, and they usually send the invoice and you put it right on the card you get. You roll it in, just like you would basically an SBA loan. So I like that unsecured program. It's I've always said it's my favorite, but this AR credit line, this is quickly becoming my favorite because it's easy to qualify for. The unsecured program, amazing, but you need a 700 credit score to get approved. This one, no credit score requirements. So those are really my two favorite funding programs that are out because both are really good rates. Okay, one's 0%, one's less than 0.5% to a 7%, half to a 0.75% you'll pay, and both are easy to get approved for. One only needs good credit, one only needs consistent cash flow. So two really good options. Those are two of my personal favorites to be able to actually access, okay? So, that being said, let's also take a look at number one, which I just talked about actually. Here we are. I didn't even make it to number one. So this is the one I just mentioned. Up to $150,000 in unsecured credit lines, 0% for 6 to 18 months, no collateral, no cash flow requirements, startups are welcome, no guarantor, or you can also get approved with a guarantor with good personal. So here's how this program works. They look at the highest limit revolving credit card you have, not a HELOC, not an authorized user account, your actual physical credit card. Then they're going to give you about 5 to 8 times that amount in approvals, about 5 to 8 credit cards with cash out capability. So let me explain what that means. So you're going to basically come in, and let's say you have a $10,000 credit card limit on your credit card or report now. You'll get about 5 to 8 times that, which is about 50 to 80 grand. But it won't be in one credit card or credit line. It'll be in 5. So you'll get 5 to 8 $10,000 credit cards. But these have cash out capability. So you can get 0% on them for 6 to 18 months. And you can also take all the physical cash out of them up to about 97 or 100% on each one. And they build your business credit at the same time. These don't even report on your consumer credit reports. They report on your commercial credit reports. So what happens is you use these to not only get money, but you build your business credit at the same time. And if you know anything about business credit building, then you'll know you usually need 5 vendor accounts to start to get the high limit store credit cards and fleet, and Visa, and MasterCards that don't require a guarantee or a credit check. Well, with these, you don't need the vendor accounts. You skip that step because you're getting 5 high limit revolving accounts that report on your commercial credit reports. This is my favorite program because you build your business credit, you get up to 150 grand even as a startup, which is ridiculous. You get 0% rates for 6 to 18 months. You can get credit line cash out capability on it. So it's really got everything you could ever look for in a funding program. Plus, because you get 5 to 8 cards, you create competition, and these guys start to raise their limits because they're competing against each other, which is brilliant, right? That's why credit card companies raise your limits, because they know that usually your highest limit of card is the one that you carry around with you. I know I do. I don't have my wallet. I was looking for it. In my wallet, I carry 1 business card, 1 credit card, and it's always my highest limit card. I don't know, because I maybe just want to buy a car with it. Who knows? But most people keep their highest limit account with them. So companies that see you have other people that are competing will raise your limits faster. So that has to be my number one favorite funding program beyond the AR one that we talked about. And let me see if I have any questions. Now I'm going to go through a quick review. What about startup business with good credit? Q, that's the one I just got done talking about. What is the AR credit card? That's the AR credit line. And if you have account receivables, it will work. Or now, even if you have consistent bank account management, it will work. They just basically do an automated review of your bank account or your accounting software like QuickBooks. If they see positive cash flow, more coming in than going out, consistent cash flow, they see you're bringing in more than 100 grand, then they'll give you an approval. And if you have account receivables, they'll issue the approval based on that as well. And the rate's 0.5 to 0.7%. It's the cheapest rate. And then whatever you borrow, you can pay back and then reuse, just like a credit line. And whatever you borrow, they give you 12 to 24 weeks to pay back. What are the two options again? I'll walk through them all again, just in case you just tuned in. They can get, okay, man, Ty, you're having a day. My wife will realize that at 11 o'clock, I'm always on here and not call me. She calls every live stream. So here we go. She should be on here watching. Okay, so here we go. So 10 ways to get a business loan, even if you have bad credit, even when you can't get approved at your bank. I'm going to review them, and then I'll answer the other questions you have. Number 10 was our cash flow financing product. If you have consistent revenue, you got to be in business 1 year or $10,000 a month in revenue. If you do, then they look at your bank statements and they give you an approval in about 24 hours, and you can fund within 72. It's awesome. If you manage your bank account really responsibly, they'll even give you a credit line, which is number 9. They'll give you a loan and a credit line right behind it, which is awesome. What happens if you don't have $10,000 a month in revenue and you're not in business 1 year? Well, then you might want to consider merchant cash advances. These only require 6 months in business and $5,000 in monthly revenue to get approved, and they are easier to qualify. None of these so far have any consumer credit requirements. You can get it if you have no credit or bad credit with any of these. Merchant cash advances, though, look at only your credit card deposits, whereas these other two look at total revenue, including cash and check deposits. Number 7, if you have a really good proven concept or a great idea, then equity investors might be the way to go. These are guys that will take equity in your business in exchange for money, much like you see on Shark Tank. Number 6, account receivable financing. You could borrow against receivables you have. If people owe you money, you could basically come in and borrow against your receivables. They'll give you 80% of what's owed within 24 hours. The other 20% once they collect the money when that invoice is paid. And rates are below 2%. One of the lowest interest rate programs that's out there. But this one, number 5, will smoke those rates because it's actually written wrong here, but it's 0.5 to 0.7% is the only rate you pay. And what they're going to do is do an online review of your bank account or accounting software. Their technology plugs in. You literally can get funded within 24 hours. You need to have 100,000 more, 100,000 in revenue or more going through your bank account or your accounting software. But if you do, then they'll review this and give you a loan with no personal credit check. No collateral is required either. All that's required is either account receivables per your accounting software or consistent revenue going through the bank account. This is now my second favorite funding program of all time. We just rolled it out 60 days ago. We're crushing it, getting a lot of people approved here that can't get approved for other kind of financing. Number 4, great if you have purchase orders. You don't need to use your money to fulfill them. With PO financing, you can get a letter of credit to get the supplies you need to fulfill an order if you have purchase orders that you need to fulfill. Okay, 3, securities-based line of credit. Another line of credit that doesn't require good credit. It's not even fair for me to do this because I'm going to have so many options here where you're getting credit lines regardless of personal credit. You're going to think it's commonplace, and it's not. It's pretty tough to find actual lines of credit that you can get regardless of personal credit quality, even though I showed you several. But with this one, if you have stocks or bonds, you can get 90% financing against those stocks or bonds, keep earning the interest on the stocks and the bonds, and you're just basically using it as leverage. If you default, they'll take the stocks and bonds. They can be yours or a potential investor. So keep your mind open to that, of people that might want to actually invest in your business. Number 2, 401k financing. Very similar, but with this one, you're borrowing against your 401k, and you can get 100% financing of the value of the 401k that's rollable, meaning the part of the 401k that's not with your employer. Now, This is really popular for partners. Meaning, if you have people that want to invest in the business, they could front their stocks or 401k to use as collateral to qualify. Rates are below 5% on both of these, and this one you can get a loan, on this one you can get a credit line. And my number one personal favorite, unsecured business financing. You can get approved if you have a 700 credit score or a guarantor that does. You can get up to $150,000 in credit lines, 0% for 6 to 18 months. You don't need collateral. You don't need cash flow, which means you can get approved even as a startup. And again, as I mentioned, you can get approved as with a or if you don't have the 700 credit scores. And that's pretty awesome because they're credit lines. You can take the cash out. You get it at 0%. You get it as a startup, and you get 5 to 8 times the amount of your highest limit account. It's a wicked awesome program. So I've got a bunch of questions. Let me look and make sure that I answer all these. How much do you charge for the $150,000 business credit program? What does it cost me to get started? I don't charge anything. We never charge a fee at all, whether you get a loan, whether you don't. Actually, let me give you this first before I answer questions. If any of this makes sense and you want to talk more, give us a ring. 877-600-2487, 877-600-2487, or creditsuite.com/get funded. Back to your question. We don't ever charge a dime for funding, guys, just so you know. What we do is help place the deal with the bank, and some of the banks actually pay us a referral commission for doing so. That's how we get paid. Okay, your fees aren't higher with the bank than they would be without us. They're actually lower because we do a large volume of loans. We take the volume we do and that leverage that gives us, we use that to negotiate the best terms for you and get you better terms than you get on your own without paying us a dime. And we have a whole team of processors and finance officers that help negotiate with the lender, that help find the best financing and most amount of financing, and no cost to you, which is pretty cool. But all these things have some kind of rate or fee. A lot of them, I outlined them. Okay, none of them will charge you up front. Whatever they charge you, they'll roll into the loan. With the unsecured program, they typically charge about 9.99% is the fee they'll charge, but you're paying 0% for 6 to 18 months. And they let you roll it in just like you would an SBA loan. So if they get you a $10,000 loan, then you're going to pay the $990 invoice on the credit card you get. So you basically roll in the fees. Just so you know, I use the program. I pay for the program. Even though they refuse to charge me, I still send them the money anyways because the service they provide is so valuable. They usually won't let me pay for obvious reasons because we send them a tremendous amount of business. But I pay for it because I value the service they provide and it's well worth it. So that is what you'll actually pay. Monique, how many polls on the $150,000? Well, that's the beautiful part. Initially, there's none. So what happens is some sources you need credit monitoring login. We've got another source that just does soft polls. So if you call 877-600-2487, our guys will spend 3-4 minutes with you. We'll get you to the funding source, and usually within 2 hours, you actually get your approval with no credit pulls. The pre-approval tells you how much money you're going to get. It'll say, hey, look, we think we can get you $100,000 to $120,000 in what they call, they don't call it regular cards, but they have standard cards and business cards. Standard cards report to the consumer credit reporting agencies. Business cards report to business credit reporting agencies. You could choose both or just business. So we have a lot of clients that take both to get the most amount of money, and then some that just choose the business. They'll give you that option. They may say, look, we can get you $70,000 to $80,000 in business cards, or with business and standard, we can get you $100,000 to $110,000. You review it, you call them, you go, yeah, I want the 110. I'm okay to move forward. Let's do this. At this point, they'll have you sign the paperwork, and then they'll start applying. Once they start applying, you'll end up with about 5 to 8 inquiries because they're getting 5 to 8 different credit lines for you, right? So for every credit line they get, it ends in an inquiry. But it's important to note, you have no inquiries just to find out how much you can get approved for. It's only when you want to move forward and they actually apply that you actually see those inquiries. Another reason I want to bring this up, stop putting inquiries on your personal credit report, please. First of all, business credit is used to fund your business, so you don't need all these inquiries if you're trying to use consumer credit to fund your business. Secondly, with programs like this one, having 2 or 3 actual inquiries on your credit report in the last 6 months will kill the amount of money you can get. Inquiries are serious business in our world. So don't waste your inquiries trying to figure out how to get yourself the most amount of credit. If you do, you'll put yourself in the doghouse, and then when you try to use a program like this, you'll have to wait 6 6 months for those inquiries to season. So don't waste your inquiries. In the commercial lending world, inquiries are like gold to us. Don't try to go and mess with this stuff on your own. It will even get you some advice. We'll get you the lending source to get advice. But just keep in mind, you burn your inquiries, you burn the amount of money that you could actually get. Okay, one per card, you're right. Depends on great info. I appreciate that. Depends on what you approve for. You got that. And they report to the business. Yes. They report to the business credit reporting agencies, and you get up to $150,000 in unsecured financing at 0% with credit line cash out capability, even as a startup. It's ridiculous. That's why I love the program. So I don't know about you, but I'm exhausted. I'm going to take a nap right now, which would be awesome if I could sleep, but I can't sleep during the day, so I'm going to stay wide awake. But look, I hope you got all 10 of these. If you didn't, go back to Facebook, watch this in its entirety, and remember, in probably a couple weeks, we're going to decode another 10. I had 20. It was too much to fill one live stream, so I broke it up over 2 live streams. We're going to be talking about shelf corporations, CPN numbers, buying trade lines, stuff you need to know about. And we're also going to be talking about 10 more ways you can get business loans in these streams to come. If this makes sense, if you want to talk more about the loans you can get, visit us here, 877-600-2487. Give us a call. We'll gladly talk with you more about the financing you can get. With the unsecured program, we can even get you pre-approved within 1 to 2 hours. CreditSuite.com/get funding. No dash in between these words. This is an easy qualifier that will help tell you all the funding you can qualify for, and our finance team will contact you as well. And CreditSuite.com/Facebook for a free guide on building business credit. It maps out the steps for you to build your business credit right here at CreditSuite.com/. So if you have questions, give us a call. Send us an email, info@creditsuite.com. Go to creditsuite.com/get funding. If you want your free guide, go to creditsuite.com/Facebook. Get your guide that maps out how to build business credit. I'll be back here next Thursday at 11 o'clock Eastern time, and we'll be talking more along this line. We're going to be talking about stuff that a lot of people want to know. Trade lines, CPNs, shelf corp. Should you do it? Should you not? I'm going to give you the facts. I'm going to talk to you about what the bureaus think, what the FTC thinks, and give you all the details you need. We're also going to be talking about 10 more ways to get business loans, and a lot more to come in our live streams into next month as well. Thank you very much for the shares. It really means a lot. Thanks for these little like guys too. That's awesome. I really appreciate it. And most importantly, thanks for coming today and hanging out with me. I know how valuable your time is, and I try to make the most of it. That's not why I talk so fast. It's just the way I am. But I do try to make the most out of your time. And my goal is that you leave here with information you just didn't have or know about when you came in. Monique says, do you have to have your DMB set up to qualify? No. The unsecured program does not require that you set up with DMB, but it will help you build business credit, Monique. So with that program, not only can you get $150,000 in unsecured financing as a startup at 0% rates for 6 to 18 months and cash out capability, but they report to the commercial credit reporting agencies, DMB, Equifax, and Experian Commercial. So you build your business credit at the exact same time. Have any questions? Want to talk more? Let us know. 877-600-2487. Going to wrap up for today. Thank you all very much. For all of my friends and family that are in Florida, as I am, especially South Florida, I will be thinking about you and keeping you in my thoughts and prayers as you navigate this storm. Everybody, thank you very, very much for attending. I will see you next Thursday at 11 o'clock Eastern here on Facebook. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.